It's so weird being back here, Sarah says as we pace the corridors of our old high school Clanner Academy. It's the opening night of Romeo and Juliet, and Nikki had promised to save Sarah and I a pair of tickets, encouraging us both to come along. I'm kind of getting used to it now, I say, but my first time coming back here was definitely weird. I think back on the day Gray and I had snuck into the school and my stomach turns unpleasantly. We still haven't spoken since the last time we were here, and I'm definitely feeling his absence. Taking in a deep breath, I force myself not to think about it. Tonight is all about supporting Nikki's work with the play and seeing my costumes in action. The rest of the world can wait until tomorrow. The classrooms we pass by are dark. The lights are turned off for the evening while everyone gathers in the auditorium for the play. We were so different back in school, don't you think? Sarah is still talking, her arm looped through mine. Speak for yourself. I like to think I've retained my youthful character, I tease her. She snorts loudly, and the both of us giggle like the school kids we used to be as we reach the doors to the auditorium and claim our tickets. The place is packed when we enter, both students and parents chatting and finding their seats, all waiting excitedly for the show to start. Though the lights are dim, we find our places easily, up in the very first front row. I'm just about to sit when a familiar voice calls over to us. Hazel, you made it. Nikki greets us with a grin as he comes over. And Sarah, I hardly recognize you. Ditto. When did you get so tall, Sprout? Sarah greets him with a hug, and I hang back as they reunite excitedly. It's been a long time since they've seen each other. It's so good to see you all. Nikki turns to me. Just wait until you see your costumes on stage. They look amazing. I can't wait. I squeeze my hands together excitedly, glancing towards the red curtains that are currently hiding the stage from sight. Have the garments held up okay during the rehearsals? I ask Nikki. He gives a swift nod. They're perfect, no problems at all, and the kids love them. I smile to myself, happy to hear it. All my hard work is going to pay off tonight, and I ecstatic about it. I was just telling Hazel how weird it is to be back here. Sarah's voice cuts in between us. How long has it been now? About 10 years? Nikki's forehead creased in confusion. But it's not the first time you've been back, is it? Hazel told me the two of you snuck in here a while back. I freeze for a moment, suddenly remembering that I had told Nikki that Sarah and I had broken in here, when really it had been me and Gray. Sarah gives me a sidelong glance before she laughs off the question with a wave of her hand. Of course we did, but we didn't get to see much. This time, we were actually invited, she says, earning a laugh from Nikki and diverting his attention. I give her a grateful smile when he's not looking, and she winks discreetly. Well, the show will be starting soon, Nikki says with a wistful look towards the stage. He wrings his hands together nervously. I should head backstage and give the kids one last pep talk. I'll be right back. He smiles brightly before he hurries off, and Sarah and I sit, making ourselves comfortable on the surprisingly plush auditorium chairs. Lying to one of your oldest friends, are you? Tut tut, Hazel. Sarah leans closer and whispers. I give her a pointed look. I panicked. I didn't know what else to say. She grins and flips her hair dramatically. Lucky I'm so amazing at covering for you. Though I roll my eyes at her, I can't stop myself from smiling. Despite us teasing each other relentlessly, Sarah really is a good friend, and I appreciate her jumping in back here. I'm glad we came tonight, she continues. I was getting worried you were never going to leave your house again. Of course I was. I've just been busy, that's all. I say dismissively. Busy with Gray? She teases. Busy annoying him, more like it. Instead, I say, no, busy with work. I've had more clients walking into the boutique. It's been really good. She smiles at that, nudging my shoulders with hers. That is good. I'm happy for you. I know how hard you've worked to build up the business. I don't get to say anything else before the chatter of the crowd suddenly hushes as the curtains pull back from the stage. Nikki comes back out to take a seat with us right as a single spotlight flicks on. An excited grin spread across his face. Then the narrator begins her part, and the show begins. Romeo and Juliet is certainly not an unfamiliar story to me, but it's fun to see the props and everything else the Academy has come up with for the production. As I expected, they've really pulled out all the stops. It really looks like a professional production. My eyes widen when the first of the actors wearing my costumes steps to the stage. It looks just as I had imagined. Better, in fact. A wave of pride washes over me as I watch the show, fixated on my work and how it looks on stage against the props and under the different lighting effects. The actors play their parts perfectly, ensnaring the attention of the audience through their performances. By the end of the show, my face hurts from smiling so much. I don't even mind the tragic ending. The actors end the performance to a round of applause. Sarah and I stand with the rest of the crowd, clapping our hands together. That was amazing, I yelled to Nicky through the noise. He's smiling from ear to ear. I don't think I've ever seen him so happy before. I have to run backstage for a few minutes, but I'll be back, he says with a grin. Don't leave before saying goodbye. Nicky darts off and we smile after him. It's funny to see him so excited about something like a high school play, but it's also really sweet. Nicky, a teacher. Who would have thought? Sarah laughs from beside me. And the drama teacher at that. If you had told me in high school that his passion was theater, I'd never have believed you, she adds. I giggle too, shaking my head in disbelief. I know, right? I'm still having trouble adjusting to the thought. He was such a rascal back then. When the auditorium lights come back on, we pile up into the school hallway with the rest of the audience to wait for Nicky. While we wait, we look over the faculty portraits that are hung on the walls, pointing out the familiar faces and laughing at old memories. Oh, look, our science teacher is still here. Remember her? Sarah holds a finger up to the class and wrinkles her nose. Yeah, she was awful, I say as I look over her shoulder and find a familiar pinched face staring back at me from the frame. Poor kids. I look at the pictures further down the wall as I trail along, finding a few class photos that look familiar. Sarah, check this one out. I wave her out. I wave her over. Holding a finger up to the glass, I point out two figures in the front of the picture. It's us, Sarah squeals, nudging me aside while trying to get a better look. Oh my god, look at my hair. I can't believe you let me leave the house looking like that, she spouts. I laugh lightly. I think the purple looks great. Maybe you could bring that spot style back. I'd love to see the look on Jed's face if I did. She grins. Hazel, over here, Nikki shouts. I turn at the sound of Nikki's voice, finding him standing with a few other people near the auditorium doors. I've been looking for you, he says with a smile, as Sarah and I head over. I want you to meet a few people. These are some of the parents from the school's parents association. I give a small nod in greeting and they all smile at me while Nikki speaks. They were asking me who designed the costumes on stage and didn't want to pass up on meeting the designer herself, he grins. That's right, says the well-dressed woman. You did a fantastic job on the costumes. Congratulations. The annual production hasn't been that well-dressed in years. Yes, extremely well, especially for your first time working on the show, says the taller one. I couldn't keep my eyes off all the outfits. They were so intricately detailed. A third woman gushes, and the rest of the group all pitch in to give me their compliments. I didn't do anything special, I say, feeling a little overwhelmed by all the attention. Just recreated some basic designs from the era. Hazel has a boutique in town, Nikki says, and the parents look intrigued. She's a very talented seamstress, he adds with a look at me. You ought to check out her other designs. Yes, it's called Raindrop, I say, beaming. I might just do that. The woman from earlier speaks again. What else do you do? I design and create my own fashion line. You're welcome to stop by the boutique and show what's on display. Can I come by this week? I'll bring my daughter. She needs a new gown for the ball, she explains with a smile at the others, who all nod approvingly. This week would be great, I say happily, and the women look pleased. I hand out a few business cards with the promise of being able to take on appointments whenever they are ready. Even if I have to shuffle a few things around, it's worth it in order to snag these kids it's worth it in order to snag these kinds of clients. When they say goodbye and head off, Nikki turns to me with a beaming smirk. See, I told you everyone would love your work, he boasts. Yeah, that was a given. Sarah interrupts. Raindrop is the best boutique in town. I'm just so happy that people are interested in seeing more. I say with a smile of my own, and I'm excited to see how the boutique grows from here. I think I can safely say we'd love for you to work on the costumes for the production again next year. Nikki grins. I know it's a whole year away, but with you becoming so popular, I might have to book in advance. I laugh softly, giving him a fond look. Thanks for the confidence boost, and thank you for inviting us to Good Night too, I say before turning to Sarah. We should head off before it gets too late. We say our goodbyes with the promise to all meet up together again soon, and Sarah and I leave the school. Tonight was fun, she grins as we stop on the corner where we'll part ways. Promise it won't be so long before we hang out again. I promise, I say with a nod, waving her off. Get home safe. I turn and head in the other direction, shoving my hands in the pocket of my coat as I walk. The night air is cool, but it's a nice change from the stuffiness of the auditorium. However, the closer I get home, the more the thrill of the night fades and the mess of the rest of my life creeps in. Gray and I haven't said more than a few words to each other since the day outside the school when he helped me drop off the costumes to Nikki. I wanted to stop him for a chat or even message him, but every single time something stops me. I can't stop myself from thinking that he's been giving me the silent treatment on purpose. The only thing I don't know is why. Approaching my building, I head around to the back door, knowing it'll probably be unlocked since it's one of Gray's usual gaming nights. He's been having them more often lately, and while I don't mind him using my own space for what he wants, his silent presence doesn't make things any less awkward. Using my phone to light the way, I finally make it to the door, my fingers brushing over the handle. Hey, sweetheart. A familiar voice distracts me and I pull back, turning to find Evan leaning against the back wall. He watches me through half-lidded eyes, dragging on the end of the cigarette. Where have you been? He asks casually. Out, I reply curtly, reaching for the door again and entering the hallway. From the hallway, I can hear Gray's game night in full swing downstairs. The thought of him being so close makes my stomach clench tightly. The door doesn't close behind me, so I turn to see Evan standing in the doorway, still watching me. What do you want? I ask him, my mood quickly going south. That's not a very nice way to speak to an old friend. He grins, revealing his teeth. There's something about his smile that makes me pause. Evan has always been a creep, but the way he's looking at me now is different. He's looking at me like a cat who's trapped in a little mouse under its paw. You know, I thought you looked familiar. He starts talking again as he walks into the corridor, letting the door shut behind him. And then it came to me, the night of the fight. I was there, remember? I heard the call you made, Angel. My skin crawls at the sound of my gang name, goosebumps rising to the surface of my skin. How the hell did he figure it out? What do you want? I ask again, But this time, the meaning is different. Even snickers, knowing his both figuratively and literally, got me cornered. Heard you've been meeting with some of your old gangmates. That little fella from back in the day. What was his name? He squints his eyes at me. None of your business, I say impatiently, and he's not so little anymore. He lets out a low laugh as though he finds the situation nothing short of amusing. Either way, it's got me suspicious. Maybe you're thinking of getting the old gang back together, he muses. I shake my head. I'm not a part of it. I'm not a part of that anymore. I've got a business to run now, a whole other life. I try to walk up the stairs, thoroughly done with this conversation, but then his next words stop me. Is that why you're spending so much time with our friend, the Phantom? He sneers. Or do you just feel guilty for what you did to him 10 years ago? You don't know what you're talking about, I spit out, my green eyes narrowing at him. It's your fault. The Phantom was expelled from school, he continues. Your fault that half his gang rejected him. Don't you think I know that? I snap, my hands balling the two fists at my sides instead. Even simply grins wider. I can tell that he's enjoying this. I've been thinking to myself, why would Gray want to be so close to the woman who destroyed all of that for him? He asks. I swallow nervously around the lump in my throat, feeling my heart beating in my chest a million miles a minute. Because he doesn't know who you are, does he? Not truly. Even steps closer still, until there is barely a few inches of space between us, and then he stares down at me, his eyes going cold. Here's how it's going to go, Angel. You're going to stay the hell away from your old gang. I don't care if you think you're not reforming, you stay away anyway. He growls at me. Go to hell, even, I spit back. He laughs quietly, and there's something sinister about that sound. How about I head downstairs right now and tell your friend Gray who you are and what you did to him, he threatens. Because that's what I'll do if you don't do as I say, sweetheart. You can be sure of that. I say nothing, my tongue sitting uselessly in my mouth, because what can I say? One wrong move and he'll surely spill everything to Gray. And I can't have that. I just can't. I haven't been preparing myself to confess to Gray all this time only to have it stolen away from me and thrown in his face. I want to be the one to tell him. It should come from me. Even assesses me for a moment, his cold gaze melting as his lips hook up on one side. If that's all sounds so unappealing to you, you can always work with me. Bring your friends over to my gang. We'd be unstoppable, he says smoothly. You really think I'd consider that after you just threatened me? I shoot back at him. His shoulders move up and down as he laughs quietly. I didn't think you'd consider it anyway. I've seen the way you look at Gray, like a lovesick little puppy dog. It has nothing to do with you. Leave me alone, I hiss up at him. I turn to leave, but even as faster, he steps in front of me, blocking my path to the stairs. I'll leave you alone, but only after I've heard you say you won't go near that old gang of yours again, he says. I've already told you I don't have any interest in joining any gang ever again, I spit out between my teeth. Even Snickers, drawing himself up to his full height and towering over me before he steps to the side and lets me pass, I dart towards the stairs before he can block me again. Then I glare back at him, determined not to let him think he can get away with this unscathed. I'll remind you that this is my property, so I'd think twice about trying to threaten me if I was you. I'm sure your reputation with the police is strained enough as it is. He surprises me by laughing, a long drawn-out laugh sound, one that sends an unpleasant chill down my spine. You've always been fond of calling the cops, haven't you, sweetheart? He says, his tone amused. Try it and see how far it gets you this time. I think they'll find a few surprises down in your basement if they look hard enough. I'm about to reply, to question him about that, when footsteps on the stairs cut me off. Gray appears, his eyebrows deep in the middle when he finds us standing alone together, engaged in a heated conversation. He looks taken aback, and I want to say something to tell him about even threatening me, even when I know I can't. Even, you're up, he says simply, waiting for the other man to make a move. Even gives me one last look before he leaves and says quietly, remember what I said. I watch helplessly as he leaves, my heart still pounding incessantly. It looks as though the hammer is back in full force, and this time he's more of a threat than I ever thought. The next evening, I stand at the top of the stairs to the basement, my eyes firmly fixed on the door below. I can hear music playing, but no chatter. Gray is most likely down there alone. It's time for me to finally do something about this silence between us. Stealing my nerves, I head down the stairs and stand in front of the basement door. I knock on the wood. When I get no answer, I go ahead and push open the door and walk down the stairs. I spot Gray immediately, shuffling a pack of playing cards and setting it on the table in the middle of the room. He looks up as I enter and something in his eyes turns hard. Hey, I say tentatively, still hovering near the door. Hi. He spares me a few measly seconds before he goes back to laying out cards and other various pieces on the table. I swallow down my doubt and step further into the room right next to the table. I wanted to talk to you about last night when you saw me and Even. I start, it's not what you think it was. Why would I think it was anything? He said tightly. You seemed mad when you left. I thought it might be. I trailed off. What do I think it might be? The reason why he's being so unfriendly towards me now? No, I know he's still annoyed I left him that night. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that everything is okay between us. I say instead. Also, I want to apologize for leaving without you that night, I confess. He stops this time, fixing me with those cold eyes. Just when I think I'm finally going to get an answer, he shakes his head and moves around the table. Don't worry about it. I have to get everything ready for tonight. He brushes past me and gestures his arms towards the stairs. I turn back towards the stairs, but I don't leave. Instead, I face him head on, determined to get something out of him. I'm not leaving until you talk to me, I say stubbornly, folding my arms over my chest for good measure. Talk to you? When you refuse to talk with me, when you shut me out and take off, Gray snaps back, his eyes suddenly fiery. I thought you understand, I protest. It's not that I don't want to be open with you. I still want to be friends. His nostrils flare wide, his temper getting the better of him. Friends don't treat each other the way you treat me, he growls, his words surprising me. Are you still mad about that night? I blurt out. I don't know, Hazel. You tell me. He speaks through gritted teeth, and now I know I was right on the money. I said I was sorry, I said meekly. I get that, and I get that you need time to work out whatever it is that makes you not trust me. I just didn't realize it would hold us back so much that you would freeze up around me and take off running. You're making this really hard. How can we move forward when you're so stuck in the past? He says, his eyes flaring up. I press my mouth shut and look long and hard at the floor. He's got me there. Though the mood is absolutely terrible, is this the right time to tell him? Would it be the end of the world? I clench my hands at my side. He does deserve the truth. I can totally see where he's coming from, knowing that I'm keeping secrets from him while simultaneously holding back from being with him because of my fear sounds so frustrating. If I was in his shoes, I'd be at a total loss on where to go from here too. The ball is in my court. I want to move forward together, if that's still even possible. I know I can't stall forever, and that I risk losing him the more I try. I lock eyes with those beautiful stormy gray eyes of his, and all I can think about is how much more upset he'd be with me if I came clean. Once again, I freeze up in place, unable to get a word out. This is not how I wanted things to go. I wanted a calm, pleasant environment. I wanted to be on his good side. I wanted to feel like we were strong, like we could endure. Just leave, Hazel, he says with a tired sigh. Please. He turns his back on me, and I've lost any semblance of courage to continue our conversation. Feeling my heart rate spiking, I leave the basement without another word.